loves, welcome to Conscious Chats with Jess
and Susie.
where we have mind-expanding chats about this wild ride of life.
We'll be talking about embodiment, self-mastery, health and wellness, spirituality, and everything else between. Thank you for being here, and we hope you enjoy this episode.
So welcome back to Conscious Chats with Jess and Susie. Here we are again.
Welcome. Yay, we're back. Episode 2. So exciting.
So Susie is part of her course, a big part of her course is emotional intelligence and regulation. And I have worked with Susie before when she was my coach. I want to say 2 years ago, but it could have been 3 years ago as well. But as you
somewhere along that line.
Yeah, as you may already know, as a listener, I've worked with Susie before in her programs as well as mentorship and coaching. And this emotional regulation, which she is passionate about and an expert on, is something that I honestly wish they taught in school because it's so important and key to how we move through and navigate life and how we can better understand ourselves and also the people around us. So I think just having this awareness and the gifts that she offers and my experience of having worked with her, this is something that I was asking Susie, can we talk about this today? Because it's so important. And it really helped me kind of find a safety in my body and understand, okay, well, if I'm reacting a certain way, like what is the meaning underneath that and the root behind that? And yeah, it comes also back to this spaciousness of being able to better understand and kind of be like, okay, well, how can I move through this world and respond rather than react from a place where I understand what's going on? And then through the reaction, it's kind of like other people react and bite back because you're reacting, and it just becomes this like heated thing when they're so so that's what we're talking about today.
Yes, it's such a beautiful topic. And so I call myself a feminine embodiment and empowerment mentor, and I really believe that emotional intelligence, emotional regulation, emotional mastery, self-regulation, whatever you want to call it, is one of the biggest pieces in empowerment. Like, it brings you so much empowerment when you are able to bring this level of self-mastery and self-awareness into your emotional experience. And I personally believe, especially for women, because the feminine is emotional. Women are emotional beings. It is our nature. Like, it is within the feminine essence, within the feminine energy, to be emotional and to experience emotion. But, you know, in this society that we live in and we find ourselves in, there's certain elements of the feminine that are potentially rejected or viewed as, what can I say, not seen in their highest potential or their highest light. So an example of this is, you know, I don't know if you've ever experienced like someone or potentially a man call you crazy or sensitive or, you know, overreactive or something like this, or even calling yourself that, even wondering, why am I so emotional today? What is going on? Why am I moody? You know, whatever it is. And this was certainly my experience in regards to my own self-judgment around my emotions for a very long time. And to be completely honest, it still comes up sometimes when emotions arise for me. The tendency can be, you know, why do I feel this way? This is inconvenient. And yeah, it's like the process of learning self mastery, emotional mastery, self-regulation is slowly coming into loving relationship with the emotional part of us and beginning to see that all emotions are simply messages. They're simply messages from our body, our intuition, and our subconscious, trying to get us to understand something or heal something. So, you know, when we're triggered, I love triggers. Triggers are one of my favorite topics to talk about because they can feel really disempowering. Obviously, when we're triggered, it can feel really super disempowering in life. And sometimes, you know, if we've experienced trauma, we can get triggered at things that may seem insignificant to other people. And that can feel really disempowering. But the process that I teach around getting to the root of your trigger is the opposite of that. It is the most empowering process you could ever learn, because then these things that appear in life and trigger us, really, when we process them down to the root, they're showing us a wound that gets to be integrated and healed. And then that is the catalyst for the evolution of our soul and for learning and integrating the lessons that I believe our soul is put on this planet to learn in this lifetime. Did that make sense? My little rant.
Yeah. There's so many.
Yeah.
I was going to say there's so many juicy parts to that that is offered in
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Also believe that, all of these triggers or they're opportunities for us to heal and to come into further alignment with our soul purpose and who we're meant to be.
Yeah, exactly. So to give our beautiful listeners like a little bit of a framework around starting to feel more empowered around emotions, the first step is acceptance. Which can be the hardest part, right? Like I said, in the moment, maybe you're triggered, maybe you're upset, maybe you're jealous, maybe you're moody, maybe you're full of rage and anger. And sometimes the very first thing that can happen is like resistance. Why am I feeling this way? Why do I have to feel this way? Why did they have to do that? Why did this person have to say that? Like, why? Resistance to what is. And so in those moments, can we take a breath? Okay. I feel an emotion right now. And this is owning our emotional experience, which leans into that sense of empowerment, right? Because if we're in the place of why did this person have to do that? Or why did this situation have to happen? We're in this victim place of things are happening to me. But if we take a moment, take a breath and pause and say, okay, in this moment, I am feeling jealous or I am feeling angry, then we are owning our emotional experience. And from that place, we drop into a sense of empowerment instead of victimhood, because now we're like, okay, this is an emotion that I am feeling. And now I can start to use my tools to sit with that emotion, to process that emotion, to feel that emotion. And I am the one that's in control instead of the emotion being in control of me. And so sorry, I have so much to say on this topic. Sorry if I am totally hogging the space and rambling, but something that can happen when we haven't learned the tools for emotional regulation and self-regulation in this moment of resistance to the emotion is that we resort to a tool of numbing or suppression to avoid that emotional experience, which is uncomfortable. So examples of things that we might use to numb is keeping super busy or overworking or making sure that our planner, our schedule is so full. So there's not even 1 second of space to sit and feel and be with self. Other forms of numbing are using alcohol, like some people use drinking or partying. That's definitely something that I used in my younger years. Some people use weed, smoking, or, TV, Netflix, binge watching TV, binge eating food. That's another one of mine that I used to use. And scrolling on social media, which is such a big one in this day as well. So, and I can totally feel myself do this as well sometimes, you know, like even boredom can be a massive one for just picking up the phone and scrolling, or some form of social discomfort, like we're in a cafe waiting for our friend to come back from the toilet and we pick up our phone to start to scroll through it because there's a moment of discomfort in feeling like in a social situation by ourselves, right?
Mm.
So when we feel this discomfort in our bodies, noticing, taking that moment of awareness and noticing yourself reach for the phone, or noticing yourself walk to the pantry, and just checking in, like, okay, what am I actually feeling right now, and why am I trying to numb or bury or suppress this in this moment?
And with that, I am so one of those people that filled my schedule and didn't have a moment to self ever. And I'm still, I guess, working on creating space. But I also have more moments in my day to check in and notice how I'm feeling, and then kind of recalibrate if needed, or yeah, just kind of see where I'm at. But I also used to go out and party a lot, which was fun at the time, but also avoiding. But I also used yoga as well. So I would just go to the studio, which again, it's, I love yoga. And I'm grateful for all those hours in the studio, but I also did that constantly going to classes and just being distracted and in that space of doing a class sequence and being with other people. And that was also like a form of escapism for me, which I can now realize looking back. And for me, luckily, yoga was the gateway to kind of be more aware of like what is going on in my body, what is going on in my mind, what is going on in my emotions. And then to start to be like, okay, well, this is coming up. Can I sit with it? Can I accept it? Like you said before, and can I love that part of myself and welcome it and befriend it, and without feeling ashamed or guilty. And it's really interesting because there are still times when I feel emotions and I make it wrong for myself to feel what comes up. And just because I'm aware of it now doesn't mean like it's gone. I feel like it's much like the yoga practice of being like, well, there's no like destination to get to. It's a lifelong journey. It's a lifelong practice. And when I think of that in terms of the emotions, it's like, well, we're human and it's part of human nature. And to deny any aspect of this human nature, any spectrum of emotion would be to cut ourselves off and box ourselves off. But then, what you don't own owns you. Like, I love that saying of being like, you try to avoid it or hide away. And then all of a sudden it comes back. And like the thing that comes back to get you, because you can keep being like, okay, and your threshold is then eventually reached where one little thing goes off and you're like,
yes, exactly. Yeah. So if we're in this space and no judgment at all, purely compassion and acceptance, if you're in a space of currently suppressing or numbing your emotions, but yes, exactly, they are stored in the body, in the brain, and the being. And I like to view it as, a vessel or like a bottle. And every time you suppress an emotion, this bottle is slowly starting to fill up. And then a lot of people are walking around with their emotional bottles filled to the brim, which is why they're so explosively reactive in situations that don't warrant such big reactions, which I know was definitely an experience of a previous partner of mine, that he was, very reactive. And I just, at the time, I didn't have any understanding or awareness of these principles. And I just could not understand why he would get so angry at seemingly, to me, such insignificant things. But of course, what I didn't understand at the time was like, obviously his bottle was so full from years of suppressed emotions and not knowing how to move and process and release emotion. But also is that those moments that to me seemed insignificant were actually very, very highly triggering for him based on previous wounding, which is what happens with triggers, right? Like I said at the start, the thing that triggers us can seem insignificant to other people around us because it's not triggering their deep wounds. So the outward trigger or the outward experience that creates that intense emotion doesn't always make sense as to why we would have such deep, strong reactions. So yeah, to like that, the reason why we do have such strong reactions to seemingly such small things could be we're walking around with an extremely full bottle of emotion that is on the point of bursting, and B, it's triggered a very deep wound that hasn't been healed or integrated yet.
And yeah, these emotions are just energy in motion, so it's like,
yes, I love that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, me too. I do believe that what we don't express and what we don't feel to heal and process, then it is stored in the body, like you said, and then it manifests into physical disease, like that discomfort in the energetics manifests into the physical body because it's all connected.
Yes. Another little quote, what you resist persists.
I love all the little quotes.
I know.
There's so much truth to it. There's so much resonance.
Yeah.
I was doing a course online with School of Healing Arts, where we were looking at the different elements and the yin and yang channels of the body and how each organ is associated with an emotion or an energy. And it was really kind of honoring all emotions and celebrating all emotions and the human nature and the human experience, that we have these to be felt. They're not here to be avoided or run from or to be feared. And so all emotions, it's healthy to feel everything, to be able to go into those processes and feel it. What is unhealthy is if there's a emotion that keeps coming up and you just keep kind of like playing out that thing, or you keep like avoiding it, and then it kind of keeps getting bigger and bigger. That's where it's like the frequency of emotion, how often it's coming up for you, that can cause problems in your body, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And just to tack on to that, I work with a lot of women that have people-pleasing tendencies, which is the tendency to put other people's needs, emotions, wants, desires above your own. And so this is a whole nother topic as to why that tendency exists. But when we move through life putting everybody else's needs above our own, we're constantly in self-suppression. And eventually this leads to resentment. So in all relationships, but especially in partnership, if you have people-pleasing tendencies, it is so important to continually check in with yourself in how you're relating to your partner, and if you're suppressing self, if you're suppressing your own needs, your own desires, if you're constantly putting them first, because this will breed resentment, and that resentment will come out, and unfortunately it poisons relationships. Like resentment is what kills relationship and intimacy. So yeah, I have an example from my own life, from my own relationship, but I don't want to share it just yet. I will share it at some point on the conversation, but yeah.
Now I don't want to hear it.
Well, before we go there, I just wanted to kind of continue on that framework, what I was saying about, how to start to regulate emotions and how to become a master of your own emotional experience. So that first step was that moment of pause, that breath, noticing the emotion and resisting the temptation to push it away or numb it. noticing if you're, even if that moment of awareness is when you're reaching for the numbing thing, or even if that moment of awareness is after you've used your numbing behavior, it doesn't matter. The most important thing is self-compassion and self-acceptance, and then awareness, right? So even if you've noticed afterwards, can you tune in and check in, and can you actually name the emotion that you were feeling, or that you were suppressing or avoiding or about to suppress? Can you name that emotion? And so something that I give my clients a tool to do that is emotion and sensations wheel, where you can actually see a whole bunch of different emotions and their associated sensations in the body. And it just kind of helps if you're not used to naming and understanding and having that moment of awareness around what you're actually feeling. So once you've done that, the next step is to feel it. Instead of suppressing it or numbing it, actually feeling it and moving it through the body, because like you said, emotions are simply energy in motion. So that's when you can use emotional release tools, which can be as simple as crying. Crying is an example of emotional release. It is moving emotion through the body. If you're experiencing something like anger, you might want to stomp or yell or punch some pillows, or shaking is really good also for frustration or jealousy, or even just like discomfort in the body, or even like lack of motivation sometimes, or just like a more heavy emotion, like a lower vibrational, stagnant-y. I get that quite often, actually. It feels like heavy and just like slow and dull. And so I'm like, okay, let's shake up this energy and like kind of shift it out. Yeah, so that's kind of the process of going from feeling to moving it out and moving it through. And then there's more advanced processes around uncovering the root of the trigger and the message that the emotion is trying to tell you, and then healing those deeper wounds. But we might leave that for another day, because that's a big topic that I like to dive deep into with my clients.
Yeah, I know that there are moments where I can feel emotions come up, and I think we had spoken about it as well in our session of like, well, if it is inappropriate, like if something frustrates me or I get kind of angry and I feel that in my body and I'm in an environment where it's not safe to express that, then making a note or writing it down and scheduling the time. Okay, I'm going to go home later when no one else is around, and I might, with that anger and frustration, like shake it out or sound it out with my voice and my tone, or just like punch some pillows or scream in the car as I'm driving past with the windows up. Just different ways that we can find spaces and time to express them safely, because there's still, I guess, moments where it's inappropriate. Like with your hurt, one thing that really stood out to me, especially during the pandemic and moments where I've been maybe in like conflict or just like with relationships or people or situations, it's like when you're hurt and when you're coming from that place, like you end up hurting those around you if you're taking it out on them, if you're unable to process it within yourself first, and then, okay, now with that clearer understanding and awareness, now come back to the conversation or the situation with more clarity and understanding for yourself. Because then it's like you're just reacting out, and when you're reacting from that hurt place, that hurts other people. And it was on the flip side of that it was like healed people heal people. So I was like, do I want to be someone who goes out there and hurts people around me because I'm hurting, or do I want to be one of those people that can heal it within myself and be that frequency or that vibration or that person who can go out in the world and help other people heal as well? Like, how am I contributing to that, and what I have control over? Because we can tend to get very like, they did that, or I'm blaming this because of this, and then it's that, which is the victim mentality that you mentioned earlier. So I guess just on that processing, like, and that healing that you're doing within yourself and that integration coming back into wholeness, it allows you to allow that in your environments and the people around you as well, which is so important in this world.
Yeah, 100%. Just adding on to what you were saying about in those moments when it's not safe to obviously do an emotional release practice, you can. So I did a YouTube video on this, which we can link to in the notes. I did a YouTube video on different tools of self-regulation, and then another one on reclaiming your power or coming back into your power, because that's something that when I am feeling triggered or dysregulated or activated or in some kind of emotional experience, you know, for me, it often arises around finances. I can feel like really helpless or powerless in those moments. Yeah, I recorded this really beautiful video about coming back to your power as a woman and tuning into the energy of Mother Earth, because as the feminine, we are connected with Mother Earth, and Mother Earth has, you know, all of the power in the planet to create volcanoes and avalanches and tornadoes and tsunamis. Like, she is so powerful. So really coming back into that connection, which as women we innately have. But yes, coming back to when it's not safe to express your emotions, something that I suggest to my clients sometimes is, if it's anger, you can just like visualize yourself like a cartoon character blowing off steam out of your ears. So it's just like a visualization. Or even can you go to the toilet? Can you go on a bathroom break and even just like shake it out in your toilet cubicle, or like have a little stomp or do a little like into your hands? One of my clients has a scream pillow in her car, and she actually goes down into her car even when she's at work and has a little screaming session into her pillow. So there's lots of little things you can do. And yeah, in that video I explain like grounding techniques, or using your breath. You know, wherever you are, you can take a few deep breaths. You can feel into the presence of the earth beneath you. So there's definitely things that you can do in those moments as well. But yes, it's beautiful to make a little mental note, and at home maybe do a bigger release.
Yeah, it's, I guess, about having those accessible tools in the moment, but then also like to be able to go into it deeper as well. And I know, you know, sometimes I may not feel like I'm necessarily, like, there's not an emotion that's alive in the moment, but if I create the space and have that intention of like, okay, well, I'm just gonna see what's up there, things can arise that I wasn't aware that was there. And it's even in that, just allowing space and having that intention, it can be so powerful to pull it forth so you can let it go.
Yeah. Yeah, emptying that bottle.
Yeah, I also see it like with just stress within myself. Like, I need to have that pressure release, you know, overwhelm, that the headiness. Like, I need these practices to kind of get back into my body and feel, okay, like what needs to be moved here? What can I create space for so it no longer has a hold on me, and I can move throughout the rest of my day with more grace and ease, because I don't want to be carrying that shit. Like,
totally. Yeah. I've had headaches for quite a few years, and I had a bit of a realization a couple of weeks ago that I believe it's from, yes, stress and pressure that I've been placing on myself in the realm of perfectionism. And so I've been visualizing like the release of pressure through my head, like a pressure release valve on the crown of my head, and like pressure out of my ears, of just years and years of like, you have to be perfect, or you have to prove your worth, you have to prove that you're good enough, and the layers and layers of overwhelm that creates in our systems. And yeah, I fully believe that that's creating a pressure headache, or has been creating a pressure headache for me.
I can totally relate to that. I always feel like I hold tension in my jaw and that moves into my head. And I try to work with like cooling. So like whether it's wearing an ice helmet, which I sometimes wear at home, or like putting, there's this beautiful blend of ice blue stick and Capaba with doTERRA, which I've been putting on around my neck, or past tense, which is a relaxation blend, which has peppermint, and wintergreen, which I sometimes put on my temples. But sometimes as well, if I'm at work, like I might just kind of run my fingers through there and just kind of like give a bit of release, or feel my skull and do a bit of a massage, or especially around the jaw, like be like, okay, where's this tension coming from? And can I just like give it that attention? Can I take a few moments to breathe into it, to feel it, to acknowledge it, so I can maybe release it a little bit? And I guess just what came through then is like, with these deeper emotions and patterns of perfectionism and unworthiness and undeservingness, which I can also relate to, and I think many people can. You know, it's sometimes I find myself being like, oh, I've already dealt with this. Like, I've already done a session on this. Why is it coming up? But it's just the pattern that is ingrained. And if you can imagine like taking that route over and over again in the neural pathways and the way the body reacts and its perspective of the world, like it's going to take time to like get yourself out of the trench and like fill that trench up, and then create a new pattern or pathway for the body to respond and perceive. And like it goes into your beliefs and all the subconscious layers, like, you know, so much of it is subconscious. So part of that awareness and that acceptance is bringing it to your awareness first. And that's why there could be like this awkward period of being like, damn it, I said I wasn't going to act like that anymore, but I felt that immediately and I wasn't aware in the moment, but now I get it. So that, to what you were saying before, like, even if you don't notice it in that moment, like these are things that maybe they've been there for lifetimes, and it takes dedication and devotion and work and continuously meeting yourself with that love and compassion and acceptance. Like, okay, like maybe you might name it as something friendly, or be like, oh, there's that little part of me that likes to stomp around, and how can I just love her or him or that aspect, and give that attention that it is calling for.
Yeah, 100%. And someone explained it to me once, like a spiral, you know, like sometimes it can feel like we're going around and around in circles and we're back at the same point, but they explained it like a spiral. So you're not back at the same point, you're just at a deeper layer of that. You're just healing a slightly different version of that. So it's not that you're back at square one, you're at square like 50, but it's just come up to be healed a little bit deeper this time, or in a slightly different way. Yeah, and I mean, there may be some people out there that have fully healed the tendencies that they were gifted in this lifetime, but personally, for me, the tendencies are still there. There is just so much more awareness around, you know, how quickly I become aware, how quickly I can alchemize it, how quickly I can shift it, and how quickly I can come back into a place of empowerment around whatever that is. Yeah.
I love that you use the word gifts, because like not seeing it as something that it's taking away from you, but it's like, okay, it's coming up as an opportunity for me to heal, to process, and like, thank you for this situation that has made me uncomfortable and triggered me, for showing me what is yet to be integrated. So just being able, that I feel helps me with the acceptance of it.
And it's obviously so much easier to say than to do, and it's so much easier to tell someone else to do than do it yourself. And it's so much easier to see clearly from an outsider perspective in somebody else's life than your own. So just want to speak to that. And yeah, it's still freaking uncomfortable in actuality in life, but so empowering.
Yeah. And I feel like, to that note, it's like that's why we have people like you, mentors, coaches, that can help us through it and just be there by your side, supporting you in doing the work, because they can't do the work for you. Like, you still are the one that ultimately has to go through it and heal it for yourself. No one can take that away from you or do that for you, which is also like the gift in that. But there's people that can help you, that can see the tendencies from the outside and say, maybe offer a perspective of like, have you ever thought of it like this? Or ask the questions that help to like kind of get through all the feeling, like reactivity, be like, oh wow, like I didn't see that before because I was so stuck in it. So just super grateful for the work that you do and helping people to heal and integrate and process, and the safe space that you create that is needed for that, of non-judgment, of not rushing anything or expecting anything to happen, you know, in that moment, and just reassuring people that it's all for them and that they have the power, especially in those moments where they feel powerless or at a state of, yeah, just that, oh, this is all happening to me, like, why? Because it's hard. I've cried to you so many times, Susie, like I mentioned that so many times, but yeah, just the space that you hold is so important. And yeah, so thank you for all the work that you do and supporting us become empowered and own it.
Thank you. Yeah, if anyone is wondering how to learn more about self-regulation, emotional regulation, I have a few different offers where I teach this. So I have a self-led course called Feminine Emotional Mastery, which is, you know, you guide yourself through it. There's so many beautiful practices, meditations, embodiment practices, journaling prompts that I guide you through the whole process of becoming a master of this feminine emotional experience. And then the next level up is my program, The Fully Expressed Woman, which is a 4-month live group container with a group of women journeying with you. And that includes some one-on-one hypnosis sessions as well. And then I also do one-on-one feminine embodiment and empowerment mentoring. So that is just you and me, and we get to go super deep. And obviously is a lot more bespoke and tailored to whatever you're personally going through in each moment. And yeah, that's what Jess did. She did the one-on-one with me, and she did a previous program called Embodied Empress, which has similarities to the Fully Expressed Woman.
Yeah, and I love and appreciate both aspects of the one-on-one and it being specific and individualized, but I also love the spaces of community and like seeing is believing. So it's like when you are able to see like your sister move through something profound and heartfelt, like we're emotional beings, like we see it, we feel it, it's contagious, like the joy, the sadness, the anger. So I love both aspects, and I guess it's just about finding what is it that I need most in this moment. And on this emotional intelligence and self-mastery, it's like, oh, I just had something, but now it's gone. Yes. So you then get to start to deepen your awareness and your connection and your trust of self, that you're able to kind of understand yourself better and notice, okay, so this is coming up, like what is here for me to learn, like the intuition piece and the trust and being able to hold yourself and carry yourself through that. I think is just like another layer of when, you know, Susie helps you through this, what you gain, what you take away, it's not just about, okay, I'm dealing with this one emotion that I want to move. It's like these are tools and techniques that help you in every aspect of your life, because you understand yourself better and because you're deepening this relationship to self and this awareness of self and your energy and your, yeah. So I just self-trust and awareness has started for me with yoga, but then the pieces of trusting yourself and like learning to listen to your intuition and be like, okay, like what's coming up for me, and accepting that and knowing that it's for you. Like that's just such a profound gift, because I know for me at least it's always been, and it's something I'm still working on, of like the answers are outside of me. Like, well, what do you think? Can you tell me what to do next? Because I was so used to this pattern of listening to people around me. And yes, like when we're growing up, we listen to our parents. They have a lot of wisdom and knowledge to share. Then we like get to see what our friends are doing and we learn from them. But it's been so important for me to lean into my emotions and to reconnect with my own self and like develop this trust, which I'm still very much on the journey on, but wanting more of that intuition to just drop and for me to know and not be fearful or in doubt or, you know, second guessing myself.
Yeah, and just a really simple practice to lean into that self-trust is like when you feel that pull to ask everyone for their opinion on a decision, just for like one time, just don't, and just decide. I know that's something that I used to do, you know, with my mum. I would always ask my mum for her opinion, and even like I noticed this, I think I became more aware of it when I was traveling and I was, you know, in Europe and she was in Australia, and I'd want to make a decision and I'd want to ask mum, and I'm like, what is that about? And I would ask so many people. I would ask so many people their opinion, and it was just my process. It was unconscious. It's just what I did. And then when I started to become more aware, I was like, okay, let's just see if I could just make this decision by myself and not even tell anyone, like not even tell anyone what I'm questioning or what I'm deciding between until I've made the decision. Like not even telling anyone, oh, I'm thinking whether to do this or this, just deciding and then telling people later and like, oh, how does that feel? How does that feel in my body? Oh, that feels quite powerful. Like, yeah, it's fun.
All playing.
Mm.
And I call it play because I've been there and it's been heavy. So
Yeah.
it's more play once we move through it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
light.
nice to call it play.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, thank you so much, Susie. Do you feel like there's anything else you'd like to add, or
do we have time for me to tell that little story? Yeah. Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure we had time. Okay. So I was recently in Bali with my partner and we were having the most beautiful time. Yeah, super beautiful time. And we were in this amazing location at this beautiful hotel. And, you know, obviously I love to create content for my Instagram. I'm getting really into reels at the moment. And I wanted to like film me at the hotel doing certain things so that I could use that for content creation. And my partner is a musician. He was creating some beats. He's created this EP called Bali Beats, of beats that he made in Bali, which are these super cool, like chill lo-fi beats. And I was like, oh, it'd be really fun to do some YouTube film clips for these beats. But I had this desire within me for my own content that I didn't really express. But in, I guess, almost slightly like in not fully owning my own desires and kind of almost maybe subtly leaning into like feminine manipulation, just very subtly, I was like, oh, I want to help you do your content. But really, I genuinely get really excited helping him with his, but also I really desired to do mine and I hadn't fully expressed that. Anyway, so we're filming his content. He's like, you know, with his keys around the spots, and it's feeling really fun. It's feeling really fun in our hotel room, and then we go out to do it outside, and then all of a sudden it's not fun anymore. I can feel myself, I can feel in myself that I'm triggered. I'm starting to withdraw, which is my tendency when I'm triggered, to not answer his questions, to speak really quietly. And I'm like, fuck, I'm triggered. Why am I triggered? What's up? What happened? This is feeling really fun, and now I'm triggered. What's going on? So, and this is all happening really quickly, obviously. We're like in the actual experience, but I was like, okay, let's just give myself a few moments. Like, let's tune in, let's take a few breaths, let's ground, connect in with the earth. What's coming up? So then I realized in the room, he was being super appreciative and saying thank you. And when we were outside, he was starting to get just a little bit short with me in like directing me and like telling me what to do, like telling me how to film him, directing me. Whereas in the room, I was doing it. And I was like, okay, it's bothering me that he's requesting how I film this, which inherently in itself, there's nothing wrong with that, right? But I was like, this is bothering me. Why is this bothering me? And then I was like, when in the past I've asked him to film me in certain locations or positions, I have never requested of him to do it a certain way because I felt uncomfortable and I wasn't fully owning my desire, right? And I was suppressing, like, actually, I want it done this way, and trying to get it over and done with as quick as possible because I felt uncomfortable in the situation, because I felt uncomfortable asking him to film me. So I was like, okay, there's been a moment of self-suppression. There's been 2 moments of self-suppression, actually, which have led to threads of resentment, which was the piece that I was speaking about earlier in this conversation, that now I'm triggered by the fact that he's requesting me to film him in a certain way. So I was like, okay, there's threads of resentment that I have because of my own self-suppression. He hasn't been suppressing these things in me. He's never, told me not to direct him. It's just something that I did myself. So this is all happening on the fly. And because I'm used to, unraveling this pretty quickly, I was able to become aware super quickly in the moment. But I'm still triggered and I still haven't expressed it. But I'm like, okay, I'm devoted to full transparency in my relationship. I want to communicate this. I want to communicate what's coming up for me. So I start by saying, hey, I'm a bit triggered. And when I'm triggered, like I said, my tendency is to withdraw. So it takes me a long time to get my words out because I'm in this, when we're triggered, we're in this fight or flight state, and where I'm in freeze. I'm in the freeze fawn response, and it's very challenging to open up and speak. My desire is to run, right? So I'm like, I'm triggered. I'm speaking really slowly. I'm trying to get my words out. I'm trying to explain, but in these moments, it's really challenging to explain because our frontal cortex is actually switched off. We're in our reptilian and emotional brain, which is the fight, flight, freeze response, the stress response. Anyway, I'm trying to get my words out, and then he walks off and finishes filming. And I'm just like so triggered in that moment that he walks off, because I'm like, I'm trying to express myself. I'm trying to say the things. I'm trying to ask for what I need. And you walk off, and then abandonment wound is like triggered as fuck, right? And he comes back like literally 1 minute later. In his mind, he's like, I'll just finish this filming and then I'll come back and like, I thought you were done speaking because you stopped speaking, because I'm like in this experience of it's so hard to get my words out. Anyway, he comes back and I'm like, can we please go back to the room and talk this out, because this is like, something's come up. I really need to speak through this. So we go back to the room. I tell him all the things. We lay it out all on the table. He's so beautiful. He's super patient with me while I'm like taking a long time to get my words out. And, within a matter of 5 minutes of saying all the things, the air is cleared, everything is fine. Intimacy and connection are even deeper because we've had this experience of being able to move through this challenging moment together. I've been vulnerable and expressed how I feel, which always creates more connection. But yeah, that's a moment of I really needed to self-regulate and notice the tendency to suppress or push away or run away, or like my old tendency was to sulk, to not tell previous partners what was going on, to just sulk, to be in a mood when they asked what's wrong, to say nothing because I just didn't know. Yeah, I'm fine. Because I just didn't know how. I had no idea how to self-regulate. I had no idea how to communicate. But thankfully, having learned these tools, and these tools are such a game changer in my life and in my clients' lives, within 5 minutes, everything was cleared, and more intimacy, more connection was possible as a result, which, you know, like we're saying, in the moment of the emotion or the trigger with a partner or with self, there's that resistance, like, why did this have to happen? We were having such a good time. But when you allow yourself to go in and be vulnerable and do the things, there's always a gift at the end, which is that deeper connection, deeper understanding of self and of your partner. Yeah.
I love it. I love it how, you know, because these emotions, they fly by and you feel them so quickly and they can change so rapidly. And like the rational mind trying to understand it all, make sense of it all, like sometimes you can't make sense of it, but that's through the practice and continuously showing up that you've created this ability for yourself to be like, okay, where's that coming from? And to be able to understand that so quickly, and then be able to process it and heal it so quickly, to be able to come back to that partnership and connection and intimacy. So that's so beautiful, and so much better than ruining the rest of your day or the rest of your time in Bali.
Like literally, I think that's what would have happened in the past, and has definitely happened with previous partners.
Like it's happened. It's happened to all of us, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there is so much power in that, in the expressed woman. So thank you so much.
Yes. Pleasure. Thank you for a beautiful chat, another beautiful conscious chat.
And we look forward to chatting with you all again soon about another hot topic.
Yay! Let us know if you have any requests. We are so here for them. We love you so much. Bye. Thanks so much for listening to another episode of Conscious Chats. We are so grateful that you're here.
We'd love to stay connected. You can find me on Instagram at sanctuaryonline.co. I offer online classes of yoga, Pilates, barre and yin, on demand and live, and I would love to practice with you.
And I'm on Instagram at Sacred with Susie. Susie is spelled S-U-S-I-E. And I have a variety of offerings on feminine embodiment, emotional mastery, and more, including my signature program, The Fully Expressed Woman. Feel free to send either of us a message on Instagram if there's any conscious chats you want to hear us riff on. Otherwise, have a beautiful day. We love you. Bye.